right. The little dot says that it's recording. Does that say it's getting
Yep,
recorded for you? Okay,
it is.
perfect. Alrighty then. Well, let's go ahead and let me share my screen. Share my screen. Okay, so you can now see the Kahoot ID, but now you can see the Scotland. Oh,
Do you want me to enter the Kahoot ID right now?
no, not right now. Just making sure that you can see everything. You can see the presentation as well as myself.
Music of Scotland, and I see you.
Perfect. Alrighty then. Well, let's go ahead and get started then. Welcome to my presentation. This is, as the title suggests, the Music of Scotland by, of course, myself. So let's talk a little bit about the flag of Scotland first, and I'll give you just some general information about the country to provide some context in the sort of specific folk music that we'll be diving into. So the flag of Scotland is, of course, a white X, or it's technically called a saltire, but that's called the Cross of St. Andrew. And the Cross of St. Andrew is, or St. Andrew, I should say, is the patron saint of Scotland. And so he is sort of the symbol of the pride as well as the joy of Scotland. And so the flag represents him, and the white represents St. Andrew, and the blue represents the sky. So basically, the flag of Scotland is St. Andrew in the sky. So a little bit about the geography of Scotland. As far as politically speaking, Scotland has 32 council areas. And those are similar to states, so they have their own local authorities, and that each of these regions vote for the parliament of their, vote for parliament as well as their prime minister. They get 180, inches of rain, which is 15 feet of rain each year. It is one of the wettest places in Europe and also in the world. If you can see on this map here, you can see that Scotland's basically divided into two sections. There's the Highlands, which is very mountainous, as you can sort of see on the geographical map. And then there are the lowlands, which then goes to England and Wales. And then, of course, you have Northern Ireland over here. So the history of the nationality of Scotland. Scotland first gained its independence in 843 AD. And, things were going pretty well for them. However, though, there was a crisis when the Scottish king died. And there was a crisis because Edward I of England basically tried to succeed the throne in 1290 AD. And so that's where the first war of Scottish independence happened. And under the rule of Robert the Bruce, contrary to what Braveheart might teach people, Robert the Bruce won the first war of Scottish independence in 1314 AD. And then also another crisis did take place after Robert died. There was his son was effectively, people thought that he was too young to rule because he was only, I think, 12 at the time. And so another crisis took place, and so there was a second war of Scottish independence. However, though, Scotland was able to win and retain its independence basically until it joined the United Kingdom in 1341. And then, let me move you can see that this here's a statue of Robert the Bruce. And a little known fact, he is my many great uncle. So that's kind of cool. So the language as well as the religion of Scotland, 53.8% of Scotland identifies as Christian. The national religion is the Church of Scotland. And of course, the main language spoken is English as well. It's a 90% majority of English speaking, and then a 10% minority of Scottish Gaelic speaking. However, though, most of the population speaks English and a lot speak Scottish Gaelic. And then you sort of dive into just very, very small minorities of any other language. So those are the main two. So for population, the whole country of Scotland has 5.54 million people. And that seems like an impressive number, but that's still 36% smaller than just New York City alone, which is insane that a single city in the US is larger than an entire country, which is divided into its 32 states of parliament, as well as electing their own officials. New York City is still larger. So, talking a little bit about the food of Scotland, potatoes are heavily used in the average diet. You see it in pretty much most meals, just because that's a crop that is, or I guess a root that is naturally or native to Scotland or natively grown, and so they don't need to import it. Which the picture here is haggis, and it's the most recognizable traditional dish from Scotland. Effectively, what it is you take the meat of an animal, either cow or lamb or goat or pig, and you basically grind the meat up and you put it with potatoes, corn. You're making stuffing with the meat of the animal, and you're cooking it inside the stomach. And so effectively, you boil it, or you boil the stomach, and then you cut open the stomach lining because that part isn't edible. But then you have your whole meal. And I don't know about you, but this to me this looks delicious because I love stuffing. So some of the traditions and the celebrations of Scotland. Hogmanay is Scotland's widely celebrated holiday. Um, Overall, it basically it's the Scottish New Year, and so instead of celebrating the first of the new year, they celebrate the 31st of December, and that's their national holiday they call Hogmanay. Also, as far as traditions, traditional formal attire, as well in both military, social gatherings, celebrations, is that the men wear kilts, and which you'll see in the next slide over. I mean, if you're not already familiar with what a kilt looks like, some people refer to it as a skirt, and I mean they're not far off. But the kilt hat comes along with a lot of very important accessories. First and foremost, there's this thing called the tartan, and that is the stitching patterns of the kilt. So if you see this picture here, you see basically the different plaids, and so that tartan belongs to a certain clan or to a certain family in Scotland. And so my personal clan is I'm with the Campbell clan, and so it's identified with dark blues and dark greens, and then the plaid pattern is 2 horizontal and then 1 vertical. And so each kilt has its own tartan, and that's a way that you can identify other families, other clansmen, based on the patterns that their kilt has. As far as the accessories are concerned, there's quite a number of them. The most popular one, I guess, or the most important one would be the sporran, which is basically the pouch you'll see in the middle of the kilt, and that's attached through a chain and then attached to the belt around it. You'll also see on their socks that they have tags, these 2 flags coming down on each of the socks as well. And so if we go to just the cultural music, and you'll see a Scottish piper later on in the presentation. So this is the musical style, and it's pronounced Chiul Big, and it translates from Gaelic to light music. And the instruments used, it is a single bagpiper who will usually play this. So Chiulbeg is the traditional form of music. Some of the musical characteristics is it has a homophonic texture. And what that means is that there is one line that's a melody, and then there is a there's another sound, another texture added to it to enhance the melody. And that's used through the bagpipes drones. So a bagpipe, if my fist is a bagpipe, it has 3 drones and then a pipe. And those drones provide a supporting role to the melody because it's in the same key and it provides a stable note throughout. It's usually in duple meter, and what that means is it's basically a march, and so it's 1 2 1 2. So basically, there's 2 beats in a measure, and there are lots of embellishments, and so also known as grace notes. You'll see instead of just going like from hot cross buns, you'll see da 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 da, and you'll see lots of flourishes and lots of embellishments as well. And the performing force is, of course, a soloist bagpipe player. So here we go to just the context. Chielbig is traditional music, one of the many, and it's very, as with the light music, it's played in marches and celebrations and festivals. It would be played in the court of a castle. It's another thing I forgot to mention is that it's also in a major key. And so it is generally very upbeat, very happy, and overall makes you feel good. This is the picture of the Scotsman. So if you've never seen a bagpipe before, you can see that there are 3 reeds poking up, and then there is one going down where his hands are placed. And that's sort of played similar to another woodwind like a recorder or a flute. How it works is the piper fills up his bag with air, and then he squeezes down, and the air vibrates through reeds, and that produces the notes for the drones as well as the pipe as well. And then also with you can see that he has what he's wearing right now is the national pattern of Scotland as far as what the tartan is. You can see his sporran is very, very regal, as it has lots of horsehair and the 2 tassels and such. And so he's very well decorated, and this is him performing in, I think, England, in the Queen's Band. So now we get to a demonstration of Chielbig, and so let's see if this link works correctly. So I need to just click on it, and then it should direct me. So there's this thing called Winter Storm, and before I click play, Winter Storm is basically a festival where bagpipers meet. Think it's kind of like a musical competition where they compete and they perform and they do marches, and they basically are rated and scaled in a competition. So we'll listen to maybe a minute or 2 of this, and then we will move on to the quiz. Oh, can you hear it okay? So there is just a brief demonstration of Chiobig. And you totally can see in action just the marching, the major key. It's very happy. And so now comes to the interactive part of the presentation. We are going to go to Kahoot. Then I will exit out and show you the. Oh, don't do that. Right. Okay. Can you see the Kahoot pin? Okay. And so I'll give you a minute to join and participate there. And then oh, perfect. And then finally, before we begin, are there any questions or comments or concerns that I could address? Alrighty then. Well, let's go ahead and start. Each question you'll have 20 seconds to complete. And so take your time, read them over, and good luck. Very nice. Okay, next question. Very good. You were in first place. Yep, so that is 32, what Scotland is divided in. Oh, is there two? I can't get the music. Oh, here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, up next. There we go. Nicely done. Streak of 3. Very nice. That was easily the hardest question. All right, final one.